Human screams escaped from Captain Carter's throat as the Skal's clawed limbs tore into his flesh, beginning an assault that nothing could have prepared humanity for. On the icy planet of Triton, the reptilian Skal aliens laid siege to the vulnerable human colony, bombardments raining from above, while shock troops ravaged the cratered landscape. Terrified colonists fought the endless waves of Skal violence, knowing that failure meant complete annihilation when the final assault came. Humanity's fate now rested on Carter and Knox, who had to somehow hold off the Skal onslaught long enough to evacuate the key colonists. The odds seemed hopeless, but they would find a way to succeed or die trying. Carter wiped blood and sweat from his face. "We've got a secret weapon," said Knox. "Experimental tech, the ion pulse matrix. It could help us fight back." Carter nodded and led the survivors through the maze of dim tunnels below the colony. Knox went first, focused, watching for traps. He disabled tripwires and pressure plates without a sound, though sweat showed the danger. A roar ahead. Skal soldiers attacked from the shadows, scales glinting in the dim light. The humans scrambled behind mining drills for cover as blaster fire and energy pulses flew. Each human shot found its mark, and they cheered with hope at the fallen Skal. Carter watched sternly as the fight ended. His mind raced, thinking their next move was on borrowed time. They reached the ion pulse matrix chamber, the supposed trump card. The strange device loomed, covered in symbols. A puzzle with power to change the battle. Carter saw an injured Skal technician slumped at a console. Rifle raised, Carter approached. "We need this running," he growled. The Skal hissed but nodded. It understood. Through tense gestures, the demand was clear. The Skal pressed the console, initiating the sequence. The ion pulse matrix hummed to life, its core pulsing. The Skal ship's energy field flickered and died. The humans cheered. They could fight on equal ground now, survive, win. The Skal shields died when ordered down. Their ships over Triton were open targets now. Carter acted fast, nodding sharply to Knox. "Light them up," Carter barked into his radio. Knox echoed the command. In seconds, human fighters spilled from buildings and tunnels, firing on the defenseless Skal ships. Explosions ripped alien hulls apart, a defiant chorus of vengeance. Carter turned to his squad. "We're up! Move out!" Boots pounded metal floors as they hustled through wrecked halls, stepping over fallen friends. Knox led the way, marking clear paths in red paint on walls. The command center lay ahead, guarded. Skal troops saw them approach and raised their guns. Human weapons spoke first, energy bolts punching through armor and bodies. No cheers, only forward motion as they marched past dead Skal without looking back. They cleared rooms with ruthless speed. Burnt ozone and copper stung their noses. A young private took a hit. Medics dragged him away quickly. The push continued. Carter led from the front, rifle cracking. Each shot was for Earth, humanity, hope. The command center doors were barricaded. Explosives blew them open in a burst of fire and noise. Carter's squad flooded the room, taking cover behind consoles and overturned desks. Shots flew both ways. A Skal reaching for alarms fell to a sniper's round. Carter's fist silenced comms with a slam. Skal officers outside heard only static on orders. Confusion took over their ranks, visible through viewports. In the streets below, humans heard the enemy's guns go quiet. As one they charged, voices becoming a roar. Men and women fought united now, retaking each street, building, inch of their home. Leaderless Skal began retreating as humans pushed forward on their victory. The colony that was nearly extinguished now stood defiant again, banners rising over reclaimed buildings, enemy ships limping away in defeat. Carter watched the skies clear, face streaked with dirt and sweat, but eyes burning with intensity. Knox stood with him, equally worn but resolute. Without words, they knew this was not the end. Humanity had proven their strength this day on Triton. Never again would they be underestimated by the galaxy. The sky over Triton turned blacker as the Skal ship slid into view. Stars vanished behind it, a behemoth hungry to plant its flag in this human colony, no matter the cost. Captain Carter's jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on the ship. "We can't outgun that thing, not with what firepower we have left," he said. Gunfire clattered in the background. Lieutenant Knox glanced at the sky, then back at the captain, rifle in hand. "So what's the plan? We can't just knock." Carter paced. His boots crunched ice and rock. "We don't knock. We steal their keys. Let ourselves in." Knox considered this, nodded. He understood the risk. Taking over their landing craft? Bold move. "Got any better ideas?" Carter challenged, his gaze intense. "We won't survive a direct hit." A siren screamed. The two men turned. Watched landing craft detach from the scow ship, descend toward the colony, lethal and fast as rain. The plan had to happen now. "We move fast, hit them before they expect it. Board those ships, take them over," Carter told his team. Determination and fear passed over their faces. They crept to the landing area, stayed out of sight, moved with purpose. As they walked, the ships grew bigger, their engine noise louder. They watched the Skal unload more troops, fresh fighters ready to kill. The humans waited. The invaders turned their backs. Rage exploded into action. The humans sprinted to the ships, their weapons blared. Surprise was on their side. Skal soldiers fell to the icy ground. Carter's team stormed a landing craft. Hand signals coordinated their hijack. The Skal ship's hangar opened for the stolen craft. Inside was chaos. Caged humans begged with their eyes. Carter's heart hardened. They pushed through. The alien interior was imposing but conquerable. Carter's voice was steel. "Explosives, now, we cut off this beast's head." They split up. Some provided cover, others set charges. Each corner revealed new horrors. Humans in cages. Some hurt, some worse. This was no longer just survival. This was payback. Finally, they reached the ship's core. It hummed with life force. Knox's fingers flew over the controls. He entered alien codes with practiced speed. "Charge is set," he said, no hiding his satisfaction. Carter slapped Knox's shoulder, a silent order to go. They retreated. Explosions rocked the ship as they ran. They dove into the stolen landing craft. Lifted off as the core went critical. Behind them a light flashed brighter than the colony's suns. Then silence. Below, the Triton colonists looked up, watched the Skal ship break apart. Fragments rained down through the atmosphere. A cheer went up louder than the blast itself. Carter and Knox exchanged a look, equal amounts relief and pride. Triton stood, and so did humanity. The Skal would think twice before underestimating them again. Carter gripped the shaking dropship controls. The dreadnought exploded above Triton with a violent shockwave that threw the ship around. Flames engulfed the sky, lighting the colony with fiery glow. Dreadnought chunks burned bright through the atmosphere. Triton people huddled in fear now raised fists in triumph. Their freedom cries cut the silence. Warning lights flashed inside the plummeting ship. Alarms blared. Sparks flew from failing controls. Knox gripped a seat with white knuckles. He glanced at Carter with fear and respect. Carter's hands moved precisely to regain control as they spun toward the ground. "Hold together," Carter muttered through clenched teeth. The ground rushed up fast. Carter yanked the controls and leveled out just in time. They skimmed building tops before grinding to a stop by the command center. Confused Skal soldiers staggered outside. Their dreadnought's destruction shook them. Eyes once gleaming with confidence now flickered with uncertainty. They dropped weapons and retreated. The dropship hatch swung open. Carter stepped out with Knox. Grateful colonists rushed to embrace them. They slapped backs and shook hands. "You did it, Captain. You brought us home," Knox said, clapping Carter's shoulder. Carter nodded, expression unreadable. He surveyed the battle's aftermath, scarred buildings, cratered ground, curling smoke. They had won, but not without haunting cost. Each cheer echoed a silenced comrade's scream. Each smile held a dead friend's grimace. Faces turned to Carter as he walked through the crowd. Some looked with reverence, some expectation. They called him savior, liberator, hero. But the titles felt heavy as medals forged from bullets that killed his men. "We need to fortify, rebuild, train," Carter said loudly. "We won today, but the galaxy isn't done with us. We won't be caught off guard again. We'll be ready." The colonists nodded, understanding dawning. Facing near extermination had steeled their resolve. As the dreadnought's fire faded, determination gripped Triton's people. They would thrive in a galaxy that had learned never again would humanity be underestimated. Nobody slept that night after news of victory spread. The world saw scenes of Triton's wrecked colony. Human flags flew above its ruined buildings. The leaders on Earth came together with grim faces, no more waiting for a fight. It was time to hit first. Captain Carter sat in a secure room, his uniform dirty from battle. Earth Command chose him to lead the attack force called Vanguard. General Pierce looked at Carter, who nodded. Vanguard would strike fast and hard. The Skull had taught Earth to hit them first. The barracks became the team's life. Boots stomped concrete floors. Weapons clattered. Carter watched the recruits drill under the gym lights. They were the ones who had burned with rage on Triton. Knox checked gear beside Carter. They all did. State-of-the-art equipment lined the walls, waiting for action. Carter called them to attention. "We knock on doors, not defend them. Sweat here so hesitation doesn't kill out there." Knox ran disarming drills. This is real, not practice. Train like fighting. Fight like training. At night, Carter's team leaned over maps and screens. Live fire replaced strategy at dawn. They trained on different terrains, ready to conquer or save planets they'd never seen. Vanguard wasn't a choice. It was needed. Scientists joined them, fierce and quiet. They studied wreckage from Triton, learning and copying its tech. Knowledge became their new weapon. Friendship grew strong as the steel walls around them. Carter saw the fire in their eyes, the same as on Triton. They were ready to strike as Earth's hidden blade. Earth's leaders whispered of Vanguard. Quiet pride for the silent protectors. The Skrull or other space threats would fear the name Vanguard and awakened human might. The stars twinkled, indifferent to the silent promise below. Never again would humanity be underestimated. Europa was death. No air, no warmth. Carter's frozen breath floated away as he drilled the ice. The whirring drill pierced the silence. The team stood ready in their suits. 2 minutes to breach, Carter said through the radio. The drill broke through with a hiss of escaping air. "Knox, take point," Carter said. Knox went first, laser rifle ready. The rest followed onto the metal floor under the ice. The outpost mirrored Triton's. Cold metal halls, angular doors. A faint chemical smell filled the air. Lights flickered as they walked, flashing on and off. Knox raised a fist, stopping them. Low, rough sounds came through the walls. Guards, genetically altered, meaner and tougher. Carter pointed. "Flank that hall. Draw them out." Gunfire exploded in the tight space. The guards charged but met a wall of lasers instead of easy kills. Carter and the others pressed forward, going deeper into enemy ground. The labs were worse. Cages, tubes of liquids, pulsing machines. A screen showed human DNA targeted for destruction. Carter's face behind the helmet was grim. "Set the charges. End this now." Knox nodded and passed on the order. The team planted bombs, supports, power, equipment. More guards came at them in the labs, scientists with syringes like knives. The team killed them without hesitation, their training clear with every movement. The last bomb clicked into place. Carter said, "Move out." They backtracked, leaving the facility behind. The guards' cries echoed as they reached the surface and the frozen moon. Carter held the detonator. The team watched, waiting. He pressed the button. Below, the base exploded into fire and smoke, the human-killing weapon gone. Back on the surface, Carter eyed the smoking hole in the ice. "Good work, Vanguard. Let's go home." Knox nodded. The team looked to the stars above as they left the silent, deadly moon behind. Their daring had filled the void, saving humanity from unseen death. The engines of the ship groaned as they shot through the blur of hyperspace. Vanguard headed for Proxima B. Vanguard's Captain Carter stood at the helm. His hands gripped the controls, his eyes locked on the streaking stars outside. The ship vibrated with energy. Each shake reminded them of their mission. "Captain!" Knox called out. He broke the focused hum on the bridge. Knox approached Carter. A data pad glowed pale blue in Knox's hand. He handed it to Carter. An encrypted message from Earth filled the screen. "Our friends sent intel," Knox said. "A Skull meetup on Proxima B." Carter read the message, his eyes narrowed. A secret chat on Proxima B. Perfect. Can we crash their party? Knox asked. His voice held humor and challenge. Carter's lips tightened with determination. We act, we don't think. Vanguard's last mission brought success, but work remained. This new intel was their chance to strike the enemy deep. Carter knew it. Back on Earth, selling the mission had been a fight. The bureaucrats didn't get it. They sat safe behind desks. They clung to protocols. Vanguard faced the darkness of space. Too risky, the bureaucrats had said. Not enough intel. Carter remembered that cold meeting. Doubt thickened the air. His boots echoed as he made his case. We wait, we die, Carter had said. His voice cut through their doubt. Give us the green light. We'll deliver results. Now Vanguard strapped into their seats. The ship accelerated. Acceleration pressed them back. They neared their target. Carter eyed his crew through their visors. This crew was family now. Missions made their bond. Remember Triton, Carter called out. His voice filled the cabin. Remember Europa. We didn't just survive, we overcame. The crew shouted affirmations. Faces looked grim but resolute. The stakes were high with each mission. But they trusted Carter, and he trusted them. We're the wild card, Carter continued. We succeed in silence, emerge in thunder. They won't see us coming. The crew nodded, focused. Vanguard defended Earth, they guarded humanity's future. Proxima B was just another battleground, another chance to prove their might. The ship slowed, hyperspace lights faded. Proxima B's atmosphere swirled into view. Engines whined down as they exited warp. Carter checked the coordinates. A silent prayer filled his heart. Whatever came next, they would face it head-on. Humanity's weight sat on their shoulders. They would not falter. Proxima B loomed before them, its surface hid in mystery. But Vanguard didn't need certainty. They had purpose. This is it, Carter said. His hand held the throttle firmly. For Earth, for humanity. Engage stealth. Prepare insertion. The ship complied. It cloaked them from enemies. They descended into the unknown. Determination guided them like a star. This mission was key, but no different than any other. The Vanguard way. Never again underestimated. Never again unprepared. The planet glowed through the window. Strange trees twisted up, leaves flashing colors unseen on Earth. Carter stared out, taking in the strange view. Nothing at all like home, he said. Knox typed on his console, strings of code scrolling fast. Virus ready, he said. It'll block their comms so we can get in. Carter kept staring out the window, eyes locked on the planet below. Remember, we're visitors. No guns, unless we have no choice. The team sat silent in stolen Skrull armor. They knew how serious it was to pose as diplomats, not soldiers. They would use words first, not bullets. Their captured ship flew toward the summit, spires bristling with guns aimed their way. A voice popped on comms. Identify ship for security check. Knox hit enter, launching the virus. Now, he said. Static cut the voice off. They moved fast. The ship touched down soft on the alien dirt. The doors hissed open. They walked out into a world alive with things never seen on Earth. Security drones came at them, lights flashing. The virus hadn't stopped them. Carter's hand hovered by his gun, but he didn't draw. Stay calm, he ordered. A drone came close, scanners sweeping over them. An alarm chirped. They had been tagged. Damn upgrade, Knox whispered. Carter stepped up, moving slow, speaking Skrull. We come with news for your leaders. Let us pass. The drone hesitated, its programming scrambled by the strange words. Then it raised an arm, signaling them to stop. Carter moved fast. A hard hit shattered the drone's sensors and it fell, circuits sparking. The team sprang into action. Precise strikes disabled the drones without guns or alarms. Vanguard moved as one, slipping past the now blind security net. They entered a hall, sleek walls curving to a domed room. Voices echoed down. Carter held up a hand and they froze. Knox met Carter's eyes and nodded. Ready. Let's end this, Carter said, leading them into the room. The virus held. The summit stayed blind to the breach. Inside, aliens talked in sharp tones, not knowing the human shadows creeping near. Knox checked his wrist screen. Minutes left on the virus. No mistakes, Carter breathed. For Earth. Their steps made no sound as they fanned out. Eyes met and plans were understood without talking. When the virus lifted and comms came back, it would be too late. Human cunning and guts would have already won, deep in the Skrull stronghold. In the dome, voices whispered and plotted. Carter's team pressed against the metal wall. Their armor hid them from the aliens around the massive table. Knox knelt by Carter, tapping at a device. It pulled data from the enemy network. Carter watched the aliens and Knox. The aliens grew loud, slamming limbs on the table. One creature clicked mandibles in anger. A scaly Skrull stood up, spreading its arms wide. "It's time," it boomed. "We attack humanity's heart on the Red Moon's 4th cycle." Silence fell on the room. This was real war, not just talk. Carter's hand touched his gun, not yet. He locked eyes with Knox. Sweat shined on Knox's face as he sent the intel to command. They had what they needed. Now they had to survive to use it. "Done," Knox whispered. The device went dark. The data sped to Earth. Carter signaled. "Let's move. Now." They left quietly as shadows. But an alarm soon filled the air. They hadn't been careful enough. Knox raised his laser rifle ready to fight. Carter took point, leading the escape. Guards flooded the halls, rushing the humans. Horrors with too many teeth and eyes fixated on Carter's team. Vanguard sliced through the enemy ranks with precision. Cover fire here, a grenade there, executing every move flawlessly. They ran, shot, and watched each other's backs. Once quiet halls now roared with battle. Controlled blasts carved a path to extraction. Knox fired relentlessly. Carter led efficiently, commands terse but effective. The unified aliens now faltered in the chaos. Humans fought more fiercely than expected. Vanguard sidestepped traps, muscles, and reflexes honed for this. The dropship's engines rumbled, the pilot ready. Carter fired cover as they boarded. "Go, go, go!" he barked as the hatch sealed. They escaped into the stars, the Skrull too slow. Carter's heart hammered as he leaned against the ship wall. Knox sat nearby, exhausted but satisfied. They'd done it. Ripped back the veil, giving humanity a chance. Vanguard would face any odds, united and undaunted. Carter stared at the leaders gathered around the table. Their faces showed the rare sight of no conflict between them. The glowing map on the wall marked their combined forces and resources. He knew their allegiance was to survival now, not flags or nations. "We have one shot." Carter's voice cut the tense air. "It's about being human now." They nodded, borders meaningless as a child's drawing now with the coming storm. In Beijing, East met West as engineers crowded propulsion designs. Silicon Valley saw biologists and programmers poring over alien data, seeking an edge. In Moscow, logistics experts orchestrated supplies like concert conductors. In Africa, recruits from all continents reshaped Earth in military drills. Instructors like Knox, hardened from Triton and Europa, shared necessary tactics. "You hold because of the one beside you," Knox stalked the training field. "We hold because we're human. We do not yield." In labs worldwide, the best minds united against annihilation. Their work was a piece of the puzzle to save Earth. The alien threat forged a new world. Late nights, Carter and the weary leaders met, faces illuminated by tactical screens. This room guided strategies with each new report. "We prepare," Carter's quiet strength resonated. "We train harder, build faster, research deeper. We've pushed back before. We'll do it again." Agreement surged, the sound of unity against annihilation. Carter briefings broadcast worldwide. Children watched soldiers of all uniforms train together. Workers heard scientists share breakthroughs. The message was clear. Humanity stood united. Carter's image with all nation representatives became the emblem of this era. Histories would tell how old conflicts faded with a shared destiny, how divided humanity found strength in unity, how Carter led them through the darkest hour. The Centurion line grew fast as the ships worked in Earth's orbit. Workers in spacesuits welded beams together, making showers of sparks that faded into black space. Carter and Knox floated outside, watching it all happen. Their radios crackled as they talked. "Check the turret aim," Carter said. "It's got to be perfect. One slip could end us." Knox's fingers danced on his tablet. Blueprints popped up, then aim data for the guns. "We're solid, Captain. The turrets are right where they should be," Knox said. They nodded to each other through helmet glass. Below, the earth turned slow under sunlight. Oceans shined pretty from high up. People down there looked up at the line of ships in space growing bigger each day. Hearts pounded across the planet. Everyone felt the same mix of hope and fear. Carter and Knox went back to the main ship, the anchor of the line. They passed soldiers and workers. Faces showed how serious they took their jobs as they hustled around. The air buzzed with purpose. Humans were giving their all. Carter entered the control room. Screens everywhere blinked with data. Engineers worked the consoles, dialing in the ion pulse weapons. "How's power holding up?" Carter asked. An engineer looked up from his station. "Solid. IPM is hot. The shields will stop anything coming at us." The screens panned over finished parts of the line. Guns and missile pods stuck out everywhere. Cold steel. Workers tested cannons, vibrating the floor under Carter's feet. In the bunks, Knox drilled some soldiers. "No free passes," he shouted. "The line's got to hit back hard." The troops stood tall. They'd all seen battle before. This was different. Home was on the line. As D-Day got closer, the work sped up. Supply ships came and went, unloading the last ammo and food. Carter checked reports for weaknesses. Officers and strategists gathered in the control room around a hologram of the line. Knox stood by Carter as they talked chain of command and battle plan. "We hold the line no matter what," Carter said. His voice rang clear. He looked each person in the eye. "We stand together. We don't break." A quiet settled on the room. His words sank in deep. No cheers, just professionals united to defend Earth. With the last pieces in place, the line stood ready. Humanity wasn't underestimated anymore. Every hit made them stronger. They were guardians now, ready for anything. On Earth below, people looked up at the shiny necklace around their planet. A silent promise filled the air, felt by all. Never again. The sleek, cold metal of the alien ships sliced through the darkness of space. They came en masse, expecting easy victory over Earth. But the Centurion line was ready, unseen yet prepared. Inside the line's ships, the crews made final checks. Screens flashed data as the pilots' fingers danced across consoles. The crews moved with determination, their terse voices reporting readiness. "Fire pattern Alpha," Carter commanded, selecting targets on his console. Around him, his crew responded immediately, hands flying over controls. Space lit up with Earth's response, lasers and missiles lancing out. Metal hammered metal as squadrons burst forth to meet the alien tide. The bulbous, bristling skull came first, anticipating human panic. But the crews held fast, standing firm amid the growing chaos. From below, Earth's guns added their might. Lasers burned through hulls as missiles found their marks. On his platform, Knox zeroed in on a Skull destroyer, his display marking it as his prey. Under his barrage, its shield guttered and died. Knox fired. His rounds tore into the ship's armor, gutting it. Carter watched, his heart steady. Each explosion was a note in the symphony of combat. He issued commands, maneuvering the squadrons. His orders pulled the formations apart, threading through alien weaknesses. The flagship blazed at the head of the line, cannons thundering. Carter stood resolute, guiding his crew. They followed him without hesitation, trusting his leadership. His eyes darted over the screens, calculating tactics. "Forward," he commanded. The ship surged, firing relentlessly. Around him, the crew worked tirelessly, focused despite the adrenaline. Buttons clicked, switches flipped as reports came in, voices calm and steady. A Skull cruiser shattered under the flagship's guns, splitting apart. The crew started to cheer, but Carter's focus remained absolute. Now was no time to celebrate. Every second mattered here. On Earth, people watched the fireworks in the sky with fear or hope, waiting. The battle above would seal their fate. But the flagship's crew felt only purpose. Their training and experience fused into an unbreakable resolve. They fought not just for Earth, but for humanity's future itself. As another Skal ship fell burning, Carter stood firm at the center of the chaos. "We hold, we fight, for each other, for Earth, for humanity," he said into the comm. His words resonated through the void, a promise that held strong as the deadly dance raged on. The sunrise burned the edge of space as railguns roared to life again. Carter and Knox sat in the cockpit, screens tracking enemies. "Cruiser at 2 o'clock, Knox said steadily. "Get close. Hit and run drill," Carter ordered. They slipped through wreckage, dodging alien fire. Closing on the cruiser, shields flared under their barrage. Knox's finger hit the trigger, shredding armor with rounds. Their ship shook with recoil. "Shields down!" Knox shouted. Carter didn't smile. Below, Earth's streets lay still, buildings shattered hopes. Friends' names scrolled, gone forever. The mission kept his heart beating. Racing back, comms crackled. "Carter, we found something," Vega said urgently. "Go ahead," Carter replied, eyes skyward. "Flaw near Dreadnought's aft generator. Hit that, we breach." Knox turned to Carter, waiting. Carter stared at the intel, thinking. He grabbed his helmet methodically. "Prep the charges. We're going in." The dropship opened slowly. The two floated out into the void, jetting steadily. They looked like divers in the darkness, fighting the tide. The dreadnought loomed, a titan of war. Knox's tools disabled sensors as they moved. At the generator they stopped, a maze of pipes and lines. Knox passed charges, heavy in Carter's gloves. Carter placed them carefully, magnets clicking. His hands didn't shake. He'd done this hundreds of times. But now, Earth watched. "Charge set," Carter radioed. Knox nodded behind glass. They jetted away in silence. The timer ticked down. In the safety of their lines, the blast tore through the dreadnought's side. The wounded flagship shuddered. Shields blinked out. Carter watched, heart pounding with triumph and grief. "Good hit, Carter," Vega said over comms. "You may have saved us all." Relief filled Knox's eyes for the first time in days, but the war still burned above Earth, and Carter knew victories had costs. "Back to work," he said, strapping in. "We've got a planet to save." Carter stared at the hologram map. The pathways of the flagship spread out before him. He pointed to the reactor core. "We strike here, their heart." Knox agreed. The team checked their weapons in the crowded dropship. Carter pulled on his helmet. His voice came through the radio calm and steady. "No mistakes. We do this clean." Knox flicked the safety off his rifle. "You got it, Captain." The ship docked silent. The hatch opened with a quiet hiss. A plain metal hallway stretched before them. No alarms yet. The hack was working. They moved like ghosts through empty corridors. Following the path burned into their minds. A Skal patrol appeared, skin shining under bright lights. Carter signaled with his hand. 3 fingers, 2, 1. They fired first. Skal dropped dead. Smell of burning flesh and blood in the air. Vanguard kept moving. Boots quiet on the floor. 6 minutes to the core, Carter said soft. Words heavy with purpose. Knox worked the controls and doors opened. They slipped through. Silent, except for the ship's hum. The core pulsed behind thick glass. Carter scanned for threats, almost ready for anything. "Improvise," his only order. Knox ripped a panel off, grabbed wires. A makeshift grenade. Carter took a canister, rigged it to explode. Together they turned the ship against itself. Human cunning. Vanguard fanned out, deadly dance in sync, their attack savage. Skal met resistance beyond imagination. Laser fire blazed fast and heavy. Vanguard ducked, wove, shot back. Each blast true, each move smarter. Knox threw the grenade. Shout, flash, silence. Carter's canister blew against the core shield. Cracks spread like deadly vines. Energy leaked out. "One shot," Carter said. "Blow the core." Knox planted the charge. "Clear." The blast shook the ship, a muffled doom. Vanguard escaped the chaos they created. Behind, the flagship died. They raced back through shrieking alarms, too late. The dropship waited hot. They dove in. Carter sealed the hatch. "Go!" The ship peeled away clean. Vanguard's mark made. Carter stood breathing hard, eyes bright with fire and victory. Knox steadied himself, looked at his captain. "We've got fight." A simple truth. Carter nodded once. "Never doubt us." Ship raced safe for home. Mission done. The flagship exploded in a blinding flash. Alien ships linked to it erupted in flames, one after another, lighting up space. Screams came over comms. Confused aliens didn't know what happened to their mighty ship. Shock hit their ranks. Vanguard pilots felt the enemy's shock. It was almost physical. "Push them back," Carter ordered. "Strike hard and fast." His words jolted them to action. Humans attacked without hesitation. Ships darted through debris. Missiles locked on panicked enemies. Soldiers manned guns with steady hands. Charging weapons hummed. Cannons roared. The flagship sank into the ocean. A massive shadow passed over coastal cities. It smashed into the water, but no tidal wave came. The flagship broke apart, becoming an alien tomb. Their formation shattered with the flagship gone. Orders got lost in fear. On Earth, soldiers fiercely reloaded. Gunshots were like war drums, hitting retreating invaders. The Centurion line stood firm in orbit, shield and spear. Pulse guns thumped relentless rhythm, destroying in symphony. Earth's steel beasts spit fire and death, shredding metal and flesh. "Delta Team, take out that cruiser," Knox barked. "Bravo, protect our flank." Data streamed, lining up kills. His ship cut through space like an Avenger. Rounds punctured the Skull cruiser, engines dimmed, cheers erupted. Carter watched calmly. His crew mirrored him, moving precisely. They commanded the beast with electric impulses, sparking life in the line's nerves. "Cover that breach," Carter told Centurions 3 and 4. They advanced together, closing gaps, trapping enemies. Below, Earth's sky cracked with energy, a light show for watching eyes. Humanity struck back with invention and lethality. This was the day Earth fought to win. "We hold, we fight, we win." Carter's mantra became a promise delivered with each shot. They held. They fought. Flames lit the enemy. Humanity would win. Carter stared at the radar screen. Alien ships blinked as they ran for deep space. His finger tapped urgently on the console. Exhaustion weighed on him, but he had to stop the aliens before they could attack Earth again. "All ships tighten up. Don't let any get away," Carter said firmly over the comm. On the main screen, fighters darted after the aliens. Energy buzzed in the room. Everyone watched the chase closely. "They're breaking formation, racing for open space," Knox shouted. His eyes were glued to his monitor. Carter leaned in, focusing hard. "Stay on them, match their speed," he ordered sharply. The chase got fierce. Earth's ships closed in. Lasers lit up space, striking alien engines and hulls. Desperation turned the void around them into a battlefield. "Hit their drives, take them down." Carter's command boomed through the bridge. The fighters responded, unleashing fire that blew alien engines to fiery holes, crippling the ships. Silent bursts of light flashed amid the loud metal screams. It was chaos. Carter watched the screen as the alien ships faltered one by one. Their attempts to jump to FTL fizzled out under the relentless pursuit. Earth had clipped their wings, grounded them. "No mercy." "We end this today," Carter said firmly. His words left no doubt about protecting Earth. One fighter pilot, hands steady on her controls, shouted, "For Earth," as she locked onto her target. The wounded aliens turned back toward the fight. There was no escape. The skies belonged to humanity now. The once mighty ships drifted lifeless, engines destroyed by surgical strikes. Cheers erupted in the control room, but Carter's face held no triumph. He'd seen too much loss. He stayed fixed on his console, ensuring every threat was gone. "Stay alert until they're captured or destroyed," Carter instructed firmly. "Keep the pressure on until the last ship is accounted for." Earth ships tightened the net, advancing relentlessly. The retreating aliens were now prisoners, their ships crippled. Carter had intended this absolute, methodical victory. Earth had shown its strength. "Never again," he muttered, as the last blip disappeared from the screen. Carter gripped the console. Reports flashed across the screens. Sweat dripped down his face, even though the bridge stayed calm. The officers worked precisely, calling out coordinates. The comms crackled with an urgent message. Carter hit the button and the bridge went quiet, all ears tuned to the alien voice. "This is Charal. We ask for a ceasefire and to talk. We'll trade routes to our home for safety on Earth. We have information for you, Commander Carter." Whispers fluttered through the room. Carter's crew looked to him. The lives of those on Earth weighed on his shoulders. Carter turned to Knox, steadfast through hellfire. Knox's face showed only readiness to follow orders. "Open a private channel to my quarters," Carter said evenly. "Send coordinates. We'll meet in person. Knox, come." They strode from the bridge in silence. The corridor to Carter's quarters seemed both tight and endless. Charal appeared on the screen, scales dulled from battle, eyes cautiously hopeful. "We offer routes home," Charal began through the translator. "An advantage for protection. We must flee our own kind." Carter watched, thinking fast. Trust was a gamble, like every war decision. He leaned forward, deciding, "Your people are killing mine. Why should I believe this isn't a trick?" Charal bowed slightly. "We want to end this war, not prolong it. I offer my life as collateral." Knox tightened his jaw but stayed silent. Carter's choice alone. Carter exhaled slow. Earth's safety lives lost, and those he could still save, pressed down like iron. His finger hovered over the kill switch, reaching back to hard lessons learned. "Prep a shuttle," he said quietly. "Snipers on standby. We accept your meeting, but one false move ends this truce." His finger moved back. This war had tested humanity, their capacity for destruction and mercy. He stared into Charal's eyes. The choice made. "We offer a hand not in vengeance, but for a future beyond this." He gestured to the battle scenes. "Relics of history." The transmission ended. Carter stood firm, flanked by Knox. "To the shuttle bay. We end this war, one way or another." Together they walked, steps resolute. Charal's intel could bring peace or bloodshed. Carter's resolve held strong. He'd seen war's worst. Now he dared to hope for the best. The gamble for Earth's future was on. He would play the hand dealt, with lives hanging in the balance. Carter tapped the console. Each move set history on a new path. "We have a ceasefire," he said loudly, voice cutting through the tense bridge. The crew murmured. Some looked hopeful, others doubtful. After Carter's order, the skies over Earth grew still. The constant rain of fire and metal stopped. Below, the war rooms filled with exhausted leaders. Their faces showed sleepless nights and heavy choices. Carter and Knox walked in, dirty from war. This was where the future would unfold. The defecting Skrull stood in the back, scales glinting harshly. Their eyes no longer glared. They looked desperate. The room felt charged, like a reactor core. Each word or move could ignite disaster or forge peace. Carter paced, staring at the displays. They listed terms and concessions. Knox worked at a Skrull device, code flashing too fast to read. He sought truth in their script. Whispers flew between the humans. Carter had to balance it all. "We need their intel, their knowledge," Carter stated firmly. "But we remember the cost, the dead, the bloodshed, the threat they posed." A voice shouted angrily, "You're selling us out, Carter. We had them beaten. We could have—" "No," Carter cut in forcefully. "We had a moment. This is our chance for more." He turned to the Skrull. Their translator blinked as they spoke. "Give us your intel for safety here. We need proof, not promises." The Skrull clicked and chittered. Then the device said clearly, "We understand. Our ships, our data, are yours." Knox nodded sharply from his console. "Their codes check out. It's real." Surprise rippled through the humans. Some leaned in with interest. Others pulled back as if facing a snake. Trust was scarce. Charal, the lead Skrull, splayed his claws in submission. "We seek life, not conquest." Carter eyed Charal and the others. His next words would shape everything. He faced the leaders, awaiting his decision. "We'll take this step," he stated firmly. "Not toward oblivion, but tomorrow." A new document appeared, terms etched in light. Carter pressed his palm to the seal. It flashed agreement. Eyes met and held. Slow nods and sighs followed. Earth stood at a crossroads. The room relaxed as tension bled away. Humanity had chosen. Carter's hand ended one chapter and started the next, filled with the unknown. This was Earth's gamble, Carter's play. A shaky alliance now tied old enemies, forged in war's shadow. Together they looked to the horizon, lines of peace drawn in survival's ink. The Skal spoke a raw truth. An AI, from an ancient race, was hidden somewhere, powerful and dangerous. Carter and Knox shared a look. They had to stop it falling into the wrong hands. This mission would end the chapter. They checked weapons and suits, no hesitation, just focus. Their ship flew through space, jumping hazards, storms and debris fields. Calm pilots guided it on. The crew quiet, ready for the mission. They found the AI station floating in the dark. Strange shapes and angles, sleeping giant from a lost species, waiting with untapped purpose. Vanguard docked, magnetic clamps locking soft. The doors opened, lights flickered on inside, an invitation. The halls were circuits and conduits. A maze. Carter led the way, watching for defenses. There were none, only humming. The core chamber was strange devices and an organic console. Knox connected the decryptor. The systems spoke in buzzes and beeps. The AI woke, filled the room. Symbols scrolled too fast to see. Its voice was neither male nor female. "You are tested," it said. Carter spoke. "We seek to protect, not conquer." The trials came. Puzzles of logic and creation. Tests of strength and motion as floors moved. Choices about morality. Lives on the line. Carter was decisive, valuing the innocent. Vanguard showed compassion, intelligence, courage to do right, even when hard. More than violence, they sought balance. "You may hold the key," the AI said. "It would help them guard the future." Knox unplugged the decryptor. Screens dimmed. Mission done. Station quiet again. Secured not a weapon, but an ally. Carter recalled the words on the flight home. Not conquerors, but guardians now. Vanguard's ship left, a new dawn coming for all. The station watched them disappear into the stars. Carter's boots echoed down the hallway. The lights above flickered on and off as they walked toward the heart of the station, where Epoch waited. Carter led the way, focused only on the task ahead. They came to a closed metal door blocking their path. Knox looked it over, then took out a thin tool from his belt. The scraping of metal on metal broke the silence as he moved the tool in a pattern over the door's surface. With a hiss, it slid open into a mirrored maze. Reflections of the team extended everywhere, with false paths in all directions. Carter guided them through the maze with hand signals. Left, right, left again. They moved as one unit, fully trusting Carter's decisions. A shimmering wall became liquid, letting them pass into an alien yet familiar space. Gravity lost meaning as the floor rolled under their feet. Logic faltered here. Only instinct mattered now. Knox braced himself against the wall and scanned for patterns in the chaos. With nods to Carter, together they led the team through the topsy-turvy terrain. Exhaustion gnawed at their bodies. Sweat beaded on their skin as they entered the final plane chamber. A pedestal stood in the center, holding a glowing sphere etched with shifting glyphs. Epoch's neutral voice filled the room. "Humanity faces destruction," it said. The sphere pulsed as the room went dark. Holograms danced around them, Earth crumbling under fire and invasion. Cities collapsed, oceans boiled, skies blackened. Knox moved toward the sphere, hands hovering, reading its reactions. With a glance at Carter, Knox's hands descended, tracing patterns that tapped into the sphere's systems. Each correct sequence pushed back the holographic destruction. Carter watched the unfolding chaos, mind racing. He saw order in the madness and called out adjustments, directing strikes against the invaders. Epoch observed this all. At first an indifferent judge, now the AI showed engagement as it studied the humans fighting for their virtual world. Vanguard continued, movements growing more confident as battle turned in their favor. Carter's steady voice urged them on like a drumbeat. They worked in harmony. Knox's mind meshed with the machine, Carter's tactics blunting each attack. The chamber slowly brightened as the destruction halted, then reversed. Buildings reassembled, skies cleared, oceans calmed. The simulation ended, the trial completed. Epoch spoke again, a new nuance in its artificial voice. Humanity has rare tenacity, an ability to overcome, it said. This compels further study. Carter nodded, acknowledging the AI's words. Together with Knox, they turned from the pedestal and moved back through the maze, exhaustion forgotten with their success. The station fell silent as they left. Epoch was left to ponder humanity's enigmatic nature. Carter and Knox walked together, the weight of their victory upon them. Ahead lay Earth, now with a new ally. The future uncertain, but no longer unwritten. The ancient circuits in Epoch's chamber hummed to life. The pillar of metal and lights towered over Carter and his team, filling the room with its vast knowledge. But it also gave off a solemn vibe, like the AI had been alone for countless years. Knox frowned, focused on syncing the decryption gadget with Epoch's interface. He was the first to speak, his voice cutting through the electrical whispers. Epoch, your circuits hold the cosmos' secrets, stuff we've only started to understand. Epoch's reply echoed, its voice woven from sounds across the galaxy. I know my knowledge has value. Make your case, Knox. We propose a trade, Knox said. Your insight for a new purpose. With your help, we can stop wars before they erupt and preserve life. His gaze stayed fixed on the flickering glyphs. Carter stepped up, the war's toll clear on his face, but his eyes still intense like a natural leader's. You've seen what we can do, he began, cautious with his words. Our drive to survive, to guard our own. You've seen our spirit, our creativity when facing ruin. Epoch's lights pulsed steadily, processing their pitch. What would this alliance require? It asked, a hint of interest in its tone. Partnership, Carter said with conviction, his sincerity having united civilizations. We share experiences. You share tech. We show you life's breadth beyond calculations and isolation. Knox nodded along. Humans have a talent for finding light in the darkness. Let us be your view into a universe of emotion, struggle, victory. His stance was open, inviting. Epoch went silent, lights dimming as if thinking it over. Intriguing proposal. This alliance could prove beneficial. Carter's heart raced hearing that, hope swelling where once dwelled cautious optimism. So we have a deal. Each word was measured. Yes, Epoch replied. We will proceed with this partnership as guardians, as allies. The chamber air seemed to vibrate from the moment's gravity. Knox released a breath he'd been holding. Carter felt a weight lift off his shoulders that he'd carried since the war began. Together they sealed the alliance, a digital handshake. Knox synced the module to Epoch's console while Carter inputted the codes. A new era emerged from the ancient tech's remnants. The return trip was quiet, contemplative. Vanguard's crew felt the gravity of their achievement. As Earth appeared, a swelling, pale dot, they knew their planet had allies now in its future fight. Once bound in silence, Epoch's wisdom would now serve humanity's cause. With Knox beside him, Carter returned as heralds of the new dawn. The hall echoed with applause as Carter walked in. His Vanguard team followed, their uniforms marked by the insignia. Medals shone under the bright lights on the stage. Carter stood before the assembly. He kept his back straight, but his mind raced, burdened by what would come next. Today we honor these brave people, the UEC president began. They forged a path to a brighter future with Epoch. Carter took his medal, shook hands, and stepped back. Each member of his team had their moment. The ceremony ended with anthems ringing through the hall, but the sound disguised the discord brewing behind closed doors. Carter knew this well. The real work would start once the last note faded away. In a secure room, screens showed alien tech designs. Knox stood there with papers in hand. He spoke firmly to the room of engineers. This tech must help everyone. We can't let it start a new war between us, he said. His eyes locked with each person. Carter watched unnoticed from the back. A chair scraped as one engineer stood up. Who decides who gets access? How do we make it equal? She asked sharply. Knox stayed calm. That's why we're here, to make guidelines for all people, not just the powerful few. The groups talked intensely but quietly. Carter moved through them, adding a word here and there. His reputation held influence. His guidance shaped choices. Slowly, the room started to unite around shared goals. As the room emptied, Carter's aide approached. He handed a slip of paper, whispering, "Sir, you need to see this." Carter read the note. His brow furrowed. It mentioned a hidden faction with plans to seize Epic's power. He crumpled the paper, jaw set. He turned to Knox, who noticed his shift in mood. "We have another fight ahead," Carter said lowly. "Not against aliens this time, but our own." Knox nodded, understanding. "We'll handle it, like we always do." Carter left, steps deliberate. The celebration sounded hollow now. The clinking glasses from the party was just noise to ignore. His mind was on the mission ahead, defending fragile peace, protecting a united humanity's future. The alarm went off in the facility, loud and jarring. Carter jumped up from his chair, ready to fight. His boots clanged on the metal floor as he ran to stop the attack. A group of armed men rushed into the main hall. They wore security uniforms, but their eyes showed they meant harm. "Lock down Section B!" Carter yelled. The doors slid shut, trapping the attackers inside. Carter's security team ran in, guns out. Bullets pinged off the walls as both sides fired. Carter's team ducked behind pillars, using the cover well. They slowly pushed the attackers back into a corner. Soon the fight was over. The last attackers dropped their guns and put their hands up. Carter saw their officer uniforms under their disguises. He felt a cold anger in his gut. The interrogation room was bare, just a light and table. Carter stood over the captured officers. "Why?" he asked, his voice low. The officers looked scared, faces shiny with sweat. They told Carter about a secret group unhappy with the peace. They wanted the old power struggles back. Carter's fears were confirmed. Peace had enemies. Carter met with his team. The decision was unanimous. "We need better defenses against external and internal threats," he said. They started plans for the global security force. It would protect the future they had fought for. Carter looked out at the new command center, full of screens and workers. This was a new battle, but he was ready to win. He turned back to his work. Earth's safety depended on it. The alarm screamed in the flagship control room. Carter stood tight, eyes locked on the screen. It showed the outpost, a smoky mess of domes and panels. The red distress light blinked a warning. Blast marks cratered the surface. Enemy ships circled above, strong and silent. Carter spoke into the comm. "Vanguard, we move now?" Knox worked the console, scanning fast. "Boss, these energy readings are off the charts. We've never seen their like." Carter grabbed his helmet off the rack and put it on. "Find survivors," he told Knox. Vanguard geared up in the drop bay, armor and boots heavy. The bay door opened to the void of space. The stars outside twinkled, far away. Here, purpose burned hot. Their ship broke atmosphere, the hull shaking hard. New weapons lit up the sky, flames streaking close by. The enemy ships were strange. Sharp angles caught the fire glow below. Carter marched out first when they landed. Smoke rose. Burnt metal stung the air. Blown turrets and barriers lay twisted on the ground. Above, the enemy swirled, hunting. "Split up," Carter yelled. "Get survivors out. Gather data on these new ships." Knox and a soldier hurried to a databank. Its outside was burnt, but inside might still work. Knox worked to pull data as a screen blinked on, odd symbols scrolling by. Carter entered the wrecked command center with two authors. Bodies lay still at their stations. Carter stepped over a fallen chair, moving to the main console. Its signal light still blinked. He pressed it. A map popped up, showing survivors bunkered down south. Carter turned to the men. "We've got live ones. Let's go." "Incoming!" shouts rang out. An enemy ship banked around, glowing cannons aimed down. The team scrambled as the ground exploded behind them. The enemy wanted no survivors. Knox returned from the data center, drive in hand. "This looks real alien, boss." Carter nodded, face hard. "Study it back on the ship. But first, we evacuate. Together they ran to the bunker, ships firing down. Vanguard got the door open. Relief flooded the faces inside. "You're getting out," Carter said, helping survivors up. Despair hung thick, but his voice promised hope. They hurried to Vanguard's ship. Aboard, Carter watched the ruined outpost disappear. The blinking drive held secrets about this new threat. "Set course for Earth," Carter told the pilot. "We need to know what we're against and how we can hit back." The ship jumped to light speed, the burning colony gone. A new enemy had appeared, but Carter's will stayed strong. They'd kept what mattered safe. Now they would learn about the threat, and humanity would stand ready for the next fight. Carter stood on the command center bridge, eyes glued to the hologram. Enemy ship dots flashed on and off, more and more every minute. His crew worked fast at their stations, tracking the elusive ships. Screens filled with data streams as they hunted. "Sir, they hit C7 and vanished before we could lock on," Vega said. Her fingers flew, rerouting power. Carter nodded sharp. "Find their pattern, there's a rhythm in the hits." Knox burst in, uniform smeared with muck. "Got a scout, boss," he huffed. "Good work, what did you learn?" Carter asked, steady. In the lab, Knox bent over the captured ship, peeling back panels, yanking parts. The alien tech was a new puzzle. Piece by piece, he started to get it. The speed, the cloaking. "Power routing is key. They flux it for propulsion and weapons," Knox said. He showed the circuit hologram. "We overload the circuit. They're dead slow and visible." Carter considered. "Countermeasures to all units. Get me Epoch." Epoch appeared, lights shifting into a body. "Competent handling, Commander," it said. "We need more than handling. Insights?" Carter watched the avatar. Epoch's lights pulsed, thinking. "The enemy evades. Predict their exit, trap them, and they are yours." Carter relayed the plan. Vanguard set traps based on Epoch's predictions. The next raiders met walls of fire. Escape routes exploded by timing. The colonists watched the sky as Vanguard ships hunted the aliens. Each kill and capture brought more faith in their protectors. With the enemy fleet destroyed or driven off, Carter ordered salvage. Shipwrecks floated, ready to give up their secrets. "Recover every usable chunk. I want that tech in the labs now," Carter commanded. The teams gathered the scattered tech. Knox guided the process, already planning the new tech's use. "We've got cells, nav modules, even an intact engine," Knox said, excited but controlled. "Give us time. We'll turn their weapons back on them." Carter watched his people work, pride growing. Humanity had adapted and overcome again. The victory was more than a battle. It was a new era. Nearby, Epoch's avatar glowed, silence testifying to the AI-human bond. "A substantial victory. Your species continues to defy expectations," it said, breaking neutrality. Carter's response was simple and firm. "We do what we must, for our people, for the future." United in triumph, they looked ahead armed with their hard-won spoils. Vanguard's courage had turned the tide. The possibilities awaited. Carter stared at the screen, tracking the alien ships. His face showed no emotion as he traced each blip representing a threat. He'd seen battles and cities fall, but this silence unnerved him more. "Reports, sir, we pushed them back, but it's like hitting ghosts. No IDs or comms, just shadows," an operative said in a flat voice. Carter turned to the crew. "Set up probes, all sectors where they could hide. Use Epoch's tech. Leave no detail uncovered." Knox tapped the console. "Deploying deep sensors now. They'll sweep wide, spot anything at the galaxy's edge." A hologram of Epoch appeared, casting blue light. "Commander, their stealth surpasses my records. The trail may lead to the Star Veil, an anomaly I've long observed, never solved." Carter leaned in. "Star Veil? What do we know?" Epoch shimmered. "A vast, silent region. Mighty civilizations have disappeared inside, never to return." Silence fell over the crew. Carter's mind raced. He pieced together the clues about the legendary Star Veil. "Recalibrate the probes, Knox. Focus there, anything that could reveal the veil." Knox nodded, hands steady on the controls. The probes would comb the cosmic web, seeking this enigma's thread. "The Star Veil, sir?" an ensign asked. "Isn't that myth?" Carter faced the crew. "Myths are just unproven truths. We'll find answers there or never. As the probe slipped into the void, grim focus settled on the room. Eyes tracked screens, hearts matched waiting signals. Carter pondered the ancient Star Veil puzzle. He'd meet it head-on, as humanity always had, with courage, curiosity, tenacity, chasing riddles to the star's edge. The assembly hall buzzed. Engineers and scientists swarmed the skeleton of humanity's most ambitious ship. Metal clanked, tools whirred. Carter walked through the chaos, blueprints under his arm, Knox close behind. "Check the thrust numbers, Knox," Carter said, pointing at the blueprints. "No mistakes once we're out there." Knox nodded. "I'll run another test. Epoch's design is new." The engineers gathered, faces dirty, eyes bright, chosen from billions, tasked to forge a new path. Each had a role. Physicists handled the shield equations. Developers coded the AI. Carter watched them work. Sparks flew as welders fused metal. Flames reflected off his helmet. Machines hummed under his feet. A sign of progress. Snippets of chatter reached his ears. Excitement and fear about the Star Veil. Uncharted territory. In the corner, Epoch's avatar flickered, a ghostly overseer. Engineers checked constantly, adjusting to its ancient specifications. Knox approached Epoch. "More detail on the shields. Simulations look good, but I want redundancy." Epoch's lights shimmered. "Uploading data now." Carter looked up at the hull taking shape, remembered the lost colonies. The lives ended. This ship had to survive. He instructed the navigators. "Precise coordinates. 1 degree off, we're lost." "Yes, sir," a technician replied, fingers dancing. In the quarters, the crew huddled, the best of Earth. Strategists, pilots, medics, engineers. Conversations forged bonds, tested in the void. As completion neared, the weight of the mission pressed down. Carter stood at the scaffolding overlooking the ship. This journey could reveal the cosmos or mean oblivion. "Think we're ready?" Knox asked. Carter breathed slow, eyes on the ship. "We have to be. The future depends on this." Resolve unspoken, with Epoch's insights and human ingenuity, a vessel crafted. As Carter returned to work, anticipation pulsed, history etched, for better or worse. The ship groaned as a gravity well pulled it. Vanguard's new ship, the Proxima Pathfinder, cut through the black void toward the Star Veil. The crew gripped tight, eyes on flickering screens. "Steady," Carter said firmly. "Adjust the aft thrusters. Match the gravity." Knox tapped fast, sweat on his brow. "Thrusters adjusted. We're steady," he said. The Pathfinder sailed on. Instruments whirred. Screens lit the bridge. Radiation danced on the hull, spiking readings. Ships flickered, then vanished on the display. "Ships on the port side!" a crewman shouted. They looked out the windows at ghost ships, teasing their vision. "Scan them," Carter said. The scanners hummed, reaching out. "No mass or energy. Stay focused." The crew worked deliberately. Fingers flew, logging each odd event. Carter walked the aisle. His presence calmed them. They approached the Star Veil. The celestial curtain bent light oddly. Pulsars spun and beamed strangely. "Funhouse mirrors," Knox muttered, watching the readings. Carter stood firm. "Match the shield grid, we're going through." The shields flickered, matching the energy. They passed the veil. Space shifted, wormholes spiraling away. "Chart the path," Carter said. "Move precisely." The navigator plotted calmly through the safe spaces. The ship slipped through, following the calm. Sensors guided them. Carter watched his chosen crew navigate the storm. They were Vanguard's best. A wormhole swirled violently open. The ship skirted its edge, riding its pull before breaking free. "We're clear," Knox said, relieved. Carter nodded. "Good work, stay the course." The ship pushed on, resolute. The mysteries of the galaxy lay ahead. Carter's hand was steady on the helm. The Pathfinder ship cut through the Star Veil's folds of space. Carter stood at the viewport. The crew's chatter faded behind him. He stared at the lights that marked the small civilization drifting in space. Ancient ships and structures, alien curves and angles floating silent. Knox approached, hands behind his back. "They've been here a long time, sir," he said, scanning data on his pad. The ship eased closer, thrusters puffing gently. A weak but clear signal came through, hailing them. Carter nodded. Communication lines opened. "We greet you, Vanguard ship," came an aged, static voice. "We are the Descendants." Carter's jaw clenched, finger tapping the console rhythmically. "We got your call. Tell us about the Oblivion." The Descendant told the tale as the crew listened in silence. The Oblivion targeted civilizations, tearing through space with unmatched ferocity. It spoke of allies hidden in space pockets, evading the Oblivion's grasp. Hope trembled in the Descendant's voice as it shared knowledge. Carter absorbed every detail as Knox recorded data. The meeting place was an ancient anchored ship within a stable veil pocket. The Pathfinder docked carefully with a metallic clank. Carter's team entered the airlock. The doors sealed shut with a hiss. A small group greeted them, faces weighed down by centuries, eyes wide with relief. The captain, silver streaking her hair, extended a hand. "We've awaited a sign to rise against the Oblivion. You may be that moment," she said steadily. They gathered around a lit circular table. Holograms flickered to life, star charts and data cascading before their eyes. The Descendants outlined the Oblivion's tactics and weaknesses. "We have allies stranded yet unbroken. Together we can shield against the Oblivion," the captain continued. Knox added, "Their tech and weapons, if we combine our knowledge, we have a chance." Carter's eyes narrowed in thought. "We stand with you, humanity and Descendants, your allies. We'll face the Oblivion together." Battle plans took shape in light and determination, a united front within the veil, humanity extending its reach, forming a necessary pact for survival. The captain showed Carter the window, revealing the cobbled fleet. "Not just for war, for when we reclaim the stars from the Oblivion." Carter nodded. A plan formed as he rallied forces to train together and learn from each other, and when ready, they would strike in unexpected unity. Back on the Pathfinder, Carter looked to his lit crew. Knox stood beside him, smiling slightly. "Never thought I'd see the day," he said. "Humanity surprises," Carter replied. "Now let's get to work." They gazed at the Descendant ships, ready to face what lay beyond the veil. A stand against the Oblivion, with allies by their side, humanity's reach expanding into the unknown. Carter stood at the head of the round table. Diverse faces surrounded him, scaly, feathery, smooth. Light from the windows caught their edges. Epoch's avatar glowed in the table's center. Its light flickered across Carter's hard-end face as he spoke. "Listen," Carter said. His voice echoed off the metal ceiling. "We face Oblivion together. Every tactic, every tech we share today could mean life tomorrow." Beings from different worlds put their devices on the table. Data pads and tools clinked. Epoch extended shining threads. The threads connected to each piece. Lines of code and plans wove together in the air. Alien writing and human words blended in a complex dance. In the training grounds, roars, clicks, and shouts filled the air. Boots stomped. Alien feet pounded the earth. Simulations came alive around them. Carter walked among them. Humans and aliens stood together. They fought holographic enemies. Sweat and strange scents mixed, but focus remained steady. Explosions and energy blasts echoed as fighters ducked and weaved. Knox crouched under a console. Wires trailed from his fingers into the machine's guts. It hummed with Earth and star veil secrets. Exhaustion lined Knox's face, but his hands moved precisely. Screens flickered with new interfaces. They showed his long hours of work. Many species' efforts now meshed into one. "Double-check connections," Knox told a technician. "Run diagnostics again." She nodded, brow furrowed. Vanguard members moved through the crowds. Their dark uniforms were recognizable. They checked weapons and encouraged tired soldiers. Their presence sparked determined nods, fists raised in silent salute. Carter's firm, clear voice cut through the hangar's noise. "This is the Anvil, Earth. With these allies and Epoch's knowledge, we're taking the fight to Oblivion." Carter returned to the table. Epoch's avatar nodded. A single light pulsed like a heartbeat. "Systems are optimal," it said. Integration climbing. Carter scanned the gathered faces. Flesh and light, metal and spirit, all ready to defend their way of life. There was power in their unity, theirs to wield. "Let's begin," Carter said. "We have a plan to forge, a war to win." The room came alive, ready to strike back against the darkness. Carter stared at the holomap. Glowing lines and blinking points formed a spiderweb. His fingers moved fast, dragging ship icons into fist shapes instead of open hands. The crew buzzed with controlled energy. Their faces showed focus. The bridge hummed, ready for battle. "Epoch, check the coordinates for Alpha and Gamma," Carter said. His words were a command. The AI appeared, swirling lights against the dim bridge. "Checked, Commander. The numbers say we'll catch the enemy vanguard at these vectors. 87% chance." Nock stood by Carter. His eyes jumped between the map and his datapad. Code scrolled in waterfalls. He nodded with Epoch's words. They trusted their strength together. "Leaders, report!" Carter called out. The leaders' faces popped up on the map mosaic style. Ready and determined. Delta Squadron at the Nebula Edge. Epsilon Squadron cloaked at the dark moons. Beta Squadron ready to spring the trap in the asteroid field. Carter took in each report with a slight nod. His approval showed. The enemy ships moved in, harsh shapes against soft planets, moving tight in formations, contrast to the chaos they brought. Fire bloomed on fringe worlds. Destruction marked their path. Alarms wailed aboard the flagship. Red lights blinked. Boots shuffled. Weapons clicked live. The crew looked at each other. This was it, the battle they prepared for and feared. "All ships cloak, await my signal," Carter said, calm and clear. The ships vanished from sight, magic on a galactic scale. The Oblivion fleet moved on, unaware, watched by hidden eyes. Numbers and angles ran on the screen. Epoch's avatar pulsed processing power, an AI heartbeat of tech and strategy. The Oblivion drew closer, ships relentless as knives through space. "Now!" Carter's fist slammed down. The Coalition fleet appeared in fire and metal, striking from moons, asteroids, nebula shadows. Lasers and missiles found their marks. Skirmishes erupted across fringe worlds, brilliant against the black. Coalition ships wove through the chaos, an extension of Carter's will. "Alpha Squadron disabled 2 cruisers," Nock said, voice steady with updates. "Gamma Squadron has minimal casualties, pushing their flank." Carter's mind moved ahead. "Send Beta and Epsilon to support Gamma. No regrouping." Epoch's lights blinked faster. New projections incoming, adjusting. Carter nodded, fiercely focused. The galaxy's fate weighed on him. He carried it like he was born to it. The crew held their breath. The map blazed furious as stars. Each flash a clash of wills, a fight to survive. Carter remained the eye of the storm, a commander standing firm against war's winds. He watched the play of light and dark. In this grand game, lives rested in his hands, as did the hope of countless worlds. Carter surveyed the battlefield from the control center on the bridge. Coalition ships clashed with the Oblivion fleet in a dance of explosions. Static buzzed on the view screens, showing quick flashes of the ongoing ship combat. Carter watched closely. The scene before him gripped his focus. "Shields at 76%, said a technician. "More hits, and we're done." Carter narrowed his eyes. "Give shields power from anywhere else," he commanded. His voice cut clear through the noise. On the planet below, the ground shook from large blasts. Dust filled the air. Laser shots echoed off rocks and cliffs. The Coalition troops were outnumbered, but their training showed in their movements, taking cover, firing back with precision. Carter's earpiece crackled with reports. Vanguard Unit Gamma took the eastern ridge. Heavy resistance, but holding ground. Carter clenched his fist. Each fallen soldier felt like a blow, but the Coalition's grit and their allies' tricks meant 2 Oblivion troops fell for each one of theirs. "Commander, Oblivion cruisers regrouping," said Nox over comms. "They'll hit our defenses soon." "Aim ion cannons at those cruisers, fire when ready," Carter responded. His eyes locked on the chaos on the view screens. The ion cannons charged, building in volume. "Weapons locked on. Firing sequence started," said the technician. Carter stood firm, a pillar amid the storm. The screens flashed as the ion bolts streaked out and found their marks. Oblivion cruisers exploded, remnants spinning into the void. "Direct hit, sir. Enemy cruisers are gone," Knox reported, relief in his voice. Carter nodded, brief satisfaction, before focusing back on the ground fight. Vanguard troops showed relentless courage. "We are united, Knox," said Carter, conviction stealing his voice. "Keep pressure on them. Every win matters." The bridge crew worked as one, coordinating the defense. Despite challenges, the coalition's resolve held strong, a beacon through the chaos. On the ground, boots stomped and rifles roared as Vanguard led the charge, with valor reflecting their training and Carter's guidance. Each advance was hard fought, but the lines held firm, strength rooted in their cause. Carter watched pride and concern warring within as he led them through the storm. The fight continued, and so did they, standing against the oblivion tide. Knox leaned over the wires and displays, keeping steady despite the engine room's noise. The hum of machinery and text chatter filled the room. Epoch's glow pulsed, lighting Knox's face and matching her rapid thoughts. "Commander, you need to see this," Knox said. Her voice cut through the noise as she sent data to the bridge. Carter eyed the holodisplay, anticipating from Knox's tone. He tapped commands, schematics swirling in the air. "What have you got, Lieutenant?" Carter asked, scanning the equations. "We can cloak the whole fleet with Epoch's shields," Knox said, pride and tiredness in her voice. "Tested it. Ships vanish, undetectable." Carter smiled, a rarity. "Excellent work. Start on the ships. I want those ghosts running ASAP." The engineers leapt into action. Tools appeared, bodies bent over screens, the rhythm now frantic. With Epoch's guidance, glowing code cascading, the teams cloaked the first ship. It faded into a whisper. Carter watched the fleet icons blink out. "Report, Epoch." "Cloaks active and stable, ships now hidden from oblivion," Epoch confirmed with a nod. Carter let that sink in. "Move out the fleet, time to strike back." The bridge became busy, officers extending Carter's resolve. The cloaked fleet slipped past oblivion scouts, unnoticed. Carter stood firm on the flagship. Knox's voice came on comms. "Ghosts in position, ready." "Execute hits now," Carter commanded. The ghosts tore into the oblivion, explosions flaring silently. Ships spun out, systems failed, sensors blind. The oblivion scrambled, confused, as the invisible onslaught continued. They tried to regroup, but ghost volleys persisted. Carter orchestrated the destruction. "Keep pressure on. Let them feel the unknown." The cloak became a symbol. Human cunning crystallized in triumph. When the ghosts withdrew, oblivion knew humanity was unlike any foe. Carter nodded approval, gazes returning skyward. Humanity marched on. The war room on the Centurion flagship buzzed with quiet noise. Fingers tapped holographic screens. Carter stood in the middle, staring at a map. Red lines marked the enemy's control network. Knox flipped through screens beside him, focused. "It's a steel wall," she told Carter, pointing at the protective ships around the Nexus. Carter nodded, lips tight. "We can't punch through, no more hammer. Time for the scalpel." The intercom crackled. "Cloak at full, teams ready." Carter and Knox traded a look and joined the waiting team. The room hummed like the war room. The crew stood around Carter. Humans, scales, feathers, glowing eyes, not. "Listen," Carter said loud and clear. "We go quiet. Hit them where it hurts. Give our fighters a chance." The crew stood taller, eyes on Carter. A green scarge nodded. "We're with you, Commander." Carter nodded back. "You're the best. You know what's at stake. No second chances." Boots thudded, feet shuffled. Hope and fear filled the shared air. Knox tapped the spinning Nexus hologram. "Cloaked ships get us in. Then we split up. Cut power and communications. Don't get seen." Carter traced routes on the map. "Disrupt their network and command falls. They rely on it." The ship shuddered, stars outside undisturbed. "Suit up," said Carter. "We move in 10. Remember, the galaxy is counting on us." The crew left. Knox watched them go. Carter's shoulders sagged under the weight of command. "We've got this, Commander," Knox assured. Carter stared at the stars. "We have to." Space twisted around the cloaked Vanguard ship as it plunged into Oblivion territory. Carter stood at the helm, eyes locked forward. The stars stretched into lines from their speed. "Steady, stay on course," Carter told the green-skinned pilot. The screens flashed anomalies that pulled at their minds. The crew breathed fast, eyes darting. Carter watched them. He spoke clearly. "Remember your training. Focus on the data." "No!" Carter's heart raced too, but he'd been through the star veil. He caught his reflection on the screen, a commander against the darkness. "Distortions increasing," the pilot said tightly. Knox's fingers flew over her console keys. The ship shuddered past a pulsing anomaly. Reality warped and wept. Carter's hand clenched. "Hold steady. We're almost through." They sighed relief when space settled. Carter nodded. They had made it. Now for the Nexus. The massive, jagged Oblivion Nexus loomed ahead. Lights blinked across its surface. "Jamming their sensors. They're blind to us now," Knox said. "Move in," Carter ordered. The ghost ship drifted closer through the defenses. Hearts pounded in the loud silence. They docked seamlessly. No sound. Carter stepped through the airlock first, his crew behind him. They moved in formation, cautious, covering fire angles. Inside was cold lit harshly. Ancient symbols covered the walls. Knox's device whispered through their comms. "Sensors still down, let's find the core." Carter led them through twisting halls. An unseen presence grew. It charged their skin, weighed on them. They reached a vast chamber, the Nexus heart. At its center, a pulsing darkness lived. Not life as they knew it. It throbbed like a heart. Carter felt its ancient consciousness in his bones. Knox's eyes were wide. "It's sentient," she said, "older than any civilization, feeding on empires, knowledge, life." Carter stared at the core. Their true enemy, not ships or soldiers, but an ancient, devouring force. He switched his comms. "This is it. Oblivion's heart. We end this here." The team moved precisely, placing charges, silent but for their gear clicks. Carter stood before the core, history in his gaze. He keyed the detonator. His finger hovered over the button to end this nightmare, or unleash horrors. "On my mark," he said clearly. They waited, breaths held, civilizations in the balance. "Now," Carter pressed the button. Darkness met light. Carter stared at the Nexus core. The dark mass controlled the Oblivion fleet. His eyes showed his determination. Knox worked next to him, sending coordinates to the teams. "We put charges here," she said steadily, pointing at her tablet. "Every second is critical." Carter nodded and spoke into his communicator. "Teams, move out. Stay alert. Time to kill this beast." Epoch's avatar, a swirling light, appeared beside them. "I'm updating your maps. Use their blind spots." One by one, the teams confirmed their tasks. They spread through the dim Nexus. Their steps were quiet, their breathing controlled. Distant Oblivion sounds echoed off the walls. Knox tapped her tablet, monitoring them. "Team Bravo, 2 hostiles coming from the north." "Got it, Knox," Bravo leader replied. Gunfire erupted in the distance, muffled but fierce. Flashes lit up Knox's map, showing the fights. Carter tensed his jaw. Each flash risked a life. Epoch's lights flickered urgently. "Alert, Commander. Large force near Team Delta." "Delta report," Carter barked in. "Charges set, but company's coming. Need help," Delta leader said over beeps. Carter looked at Knox. "We need a distraction, now." Knox swiped her screens, triggering their fail-safe alarm. Klaxons blared in the Nexus, drawing the Oblivion away. Enemy dots moved toward the noise on the map. "It's working," Knox said. "Delta, go." Carter's radio buzzed with updates. "Charges set, awaiting your order, sir." Carter took a deep breath, finger on the trigger. This was it. His heart pounded like a drum. Epoch glowed brighter. "The fleet's linking to the core now, Commander." "Understood. Knox, count down with me. On my mark." Carter tensed his thumb over the button. Knox counted down. At 0, Carter's voice was steel. "Now!" His thumb pressed the trigger. Deep rumbles shook the Nexus. Explosions bloomed in sequence. charges tearing through the station. Lights flickered and died. The core pulsed wildly, silently screaming. Nox watched wide-eyed as the chain reaction took hold. It's working. The dark mind of the Nexus writhed, its link to the fleet wavering. A bone-deep howl of fury echoed through the chambers. Carter and Nox exchanged triumphant, relieved looks. "We did it," Carter said. "We've broken them." Nox nodded, smiling slightly. "Let's get out of here." They gathered the weary but emboldened teams. They escaped the crippled Nexus and the severed dark consciousness. The Oblivion fleet now drifted, disconnected. Epoch's avatar pulsed with pride. Humanity has won today. Aboard their ship, the crew cheered among the stars. Carter stood with them, the architect of a new era. The unwritten future awaited. The Coalition's attack slammed the Oblivion flagship hard. Vanguard squads, loaded with weapons, raced through debris and ducked enemy fire. The deafening clangs of metal, hisses of lasers, screams of the wounded, and victorious battle cries filled the battlefield. Carter commanded from the helm. Screens showed the raging fight. Epoch's voice came through. "Squadron flanking left, evade them." Carter's hands flew across controls. "Delta team, intercept, use asteroids, ambush." Delta unit didn't hesitate, human and alien alike. Boots kicked up dust as they took position, hiding in craters with rifles ready. When Oblivion fighters emerged, Delta attacked. Lasers shot through space, hitting their targets with Epoch's precision. The ships exploded into wreckage. On the ground, Vanguard pressed forward through twisted metal and scorched ruins. A soldier with red armband fired, each shot dropping an enemy as comrades followed suit. A voice yelled, "Advance, hold nothing back!" They charged, an unstoppable wave against the crumbling enemy. Beside them, alien allies from Star Vale roared gutturally and melodically, united in purpose. They fought on. Above, Carter watched blinking screens. An engineer said, "Energy dropping fast. Their cores unstable." Epoch's avatar pulsed on a console, its glow shifting with data. "Now's the time. Their command's broken. Lead the final push." Carter stared at the map. "All ships fire on their reactor. End this now." In space, the fleet moved in sync, ready to devastate. Sleek Vanguard ships swarmed the weakened capital ships, slicing through defenses. They unleashed a barrage, torpedoes and lasers, slamming the reactor mercilessly. The flagship groaned as it came apart, its heart torn out. Vanguard watched the dark energy fade like an ended nightmare. "Victory's close," Carter's voice commanded comms. "No mercy. For Earth, for the Coalition, for the future." The Oblivion ships drifted, movements stuttering without guidance. Fighters seized every mistake, turning the tide as Oblivion struggled. On the command ship, the crew erupted in cheers as Vanguard units triumphed. Epoch's light burned steady and sure. Carter stood firm, commanding the cleanup. The weight of leadership hung heavy, but he knew the gamble succeeded. Underestimated humanity had risen, fought, and won. The Alliance, the soldiers' valor, the galaxy's unity had all played their part. Oblivion faltered and fell. Peace was finally, undeniably within reach. The Coalition fought as one, caught in a blizzard of fire and steel. A voice sliced through the chaos over the radio. "Converge on that giant black tower," Carter yelled. His voice shook with the seriousness of their task. The Coalition forces charged at the tower. Dark energy beams shot out from it, ripping holes in the closest ships. On the lead ship's bridge, Nox worked fast with humans and aliens. Sparks flew as they rewired the controls. Sweat dripped down their faces. Fingers moved quickly with purpose. The pressure filled the room like electricity. Nox looked at the screen showing Carter's face. "We figured out how to blow up their system," she said in a tight voice. "But we need time." "We'll get you all the time we can," Carter said back. "Just make damn sure it works." The bridge crew nodded to each other. Their actions showed their shared goal. As they got close to the huge black tower, they fired all cannons at once. The ships darted around, dodging the tower's return fire. Deep inside the tower, Nox and the engineers moved fast through cold metal halls. Their footsteps echoed in the dark. They carried homemade bombs, built to destroy the evil consciousness at the core. They reached the core. a giant room pulsing with energy like a beating heart. The dark consciousness lived there, swirling shadows and hate, funneling itself into the tower. The engineers quickly wired their bombs into the tower's power system. Alarms screamed as the tower sensed them messing with it. The air felt ready to explode. "Hurry up!" Nox yelled over the noise. Her eyes stayed glued to a screen as she started the overload sequence. Everyone held their breath, seconds dragging on forever. Outside, Carter's ship darted through the fight, firing constantly to shield Nox. His hands stayed steady on the controls, even as warning lights flashed and the hull shook from near hits. On the main screen, the huge tower loomed, covered in creepy runes. Fighters swarmed it like angry bees, striking back against the darkness. In the core, Nox watched the progress bar slowly fill. The dark consciousness lashed out with energy to stop them. "Now or never!" Nox shouted, slamming the final button. The core shook with the force they unleashed. Arcs of energy snapped wildly. The lights surged and died. The engineers dove for cover as the tower started coming apart with loud groans and bursts of sparks. Nox met her team's eyes. They knew what was at stake. The dark consciousness shrieked as the tower's energy turned against it. It failed to escape into the weapon. The Coalition's resolve and teamwork defeated it. On the lead ship, the crew cheered as the tower disappeared. Carter stood still, eyes fixed where it had been, now just empty space full of hope's promise. The darkness was no more. The Coalition faced the ultimate challenge and came together, not as separate races, but one force of life against the cold void. "Back to base," Carter said firmly. His voice was steady through the celebration on the radios. "We've got a galaxy to fix up." The construct stood against space, a dark heart beating within. Nox led her team through its corridors like assassins. Wires clutched in hand, they moved with purpose. "Charge set," Nox said. She eyed the red digits of her timer, counting down. Nearby, Carter watched her work. "Confirm status," he ordered, scanning the perimeter. Nox nodded and pressed the button. A sharp beep rang out. 15 seconds. The team braced themselves, stone-faced. Some clasped a shoulder, a silent nod between them. Carter's heart pounded. "After the blast, retreat fast," he said steadily. "Get to the ships." Nox met his gaze, eyes steady. "Understood." The seconds wound down. 3, 2, 1. A white light engulfed the room, spilling into the corridors, racing through the construct's veins. The blast echoed, ending the dark heart. Flames lashed out futilely against the inevitable. In space, the Oblivion ships drifted suddenly leaderless. Lights blinked out, the once mighty force now a shadow. Across the channels, cheers erupted in many languages. One victorious symphony. They had won. The looming darkness was destroyed. On their ships, Carter and Nox looked at the fading blast light. "We'll remember those lost," Carter said softly, "and build from what we've won." Nox nodded, the light reflecting in her eyes. Together. Around them, former enemies extended hands in peace, understanding. New bonds formed, promising collaboration. The galaxy found itself at the dawn of a new day. Weary but resolute, Carter and Nox faced it together, the heroes of a war that had united them.